Yes, so a little bit about myself. So that is me. That was like 2 weeks ago, so I had to see if I still had it. We were taking some photos at the local high school to do some marketing stuff, and I just got messing around and tried to see how long I could jump, but it didn't end well, so I'm glad they ended it there. Yeah, so a little bit more about myself. There's a few things in my life that are very important to me. So one is my family, and my wife's here, and that's how important it is to me. I want her to be involved in everything I do, and she's the number one person that believes in me. So if it wasn't for her, I couldn't do what I'm doing now. So family's very important. We have 5 kids. Our oldest is 9, Sky, and then CJ just started 1st grade, and then we have Chance and Levi, and then our new baby, Faith. So yeah, I'm a athlete, so that's what I did growing up. That and the outdoors. That was pretty much my life. You know, any kind of competition. Played 3 sports in high school. Really pushed me and stretched me, which I'm glad, because I didn't have much business training before I started down this path. So really what I've had to do is just take all those models I learned playing sports and the toughness of it and apply it to business. So yep, business owner and, you know, entrepreneur. We can get into that a little bit more. That's a tough thing for me to call myself, is an entrepreneur. I remember in college sitting through multiple classes, and they'd have guest speakers come. And an entrepreneur just always seemed like something I could never grasp. And I still feel like I'm not there, you know. So I use that term very lightly. I just learned how to spell entrepreneur a few weeks ago. So, and I'm using that as a good indicator. When you can spell entrepreneur without looking it up or Googling it or whatever, you're onto something. So remember that. And then also, I love goodwill. A few words of advice: get out of bed, get to work, and make something good happen. That's all you have to do every day. Get out of bed before anybody else, get to work, and make something good happen. So, yeah, and we can get a little bit into that. So that's a $25,000 grant we won for the community about a year ago. So that was pretty fun. Yeah, so I want to ask 1 or 2 questions. So how many people here want to work in business, just in the business field? Okay. How many people want to work for a big giant corporation? All right. You guys are brave. How about running your own business, starting your own business? Okay, Noah's hand shot it. He beat everybody to it. You got to raise that up there. Okay, so hopefully I hit little things that you can take with you, whether you're going to run a multi-million-dollar company or start something in your basement. It's all personal preference. And a lot of times, I'll be honest, when I first started down this path, I felt a little left out. Some of my buddies that were finishing the MBA program, they were going on to, they had got in with some great recruiters. They were getting placed in these big, great companies. And I'm just like, oh man, what am I going to do, you know? Trying to find my way. So all roads lead to the ocean. Remember that. Whatever you're passionate about, it's good you know that now. I didn't even know that till after my MBA, what I wanted to do. So that's a big point, is figure that out early. And sometimes it's just going to take you time trying a lot of different things. Yes, so where do I start? I had a few ideas about kind of my story and what's led me down this path. And so I call them humbling, life-changing, empowering experiences. So that's a little long for the title. But let me show you one example. So I got done playing college football. I actually was surrounded by some great coaches. So my freshman year, I was coached by Coach Meyer. And first thing he said to me, I showed up. I actually served an LDS mission to the Mascarene Islands in the Indian Ocean. Came home. I went out. I was about 225, 230. Came home about 187. First thing he said to me, I show up. We're doing a barbecue at his house, kind of to start summer training. Whole team's there, and I show up, and he just says, well, I'll edit it a little bit. He's like, you look like hit the weight room. You know, that was the first thing he said. He's like, you just look like crap. And that was my first experience with Coach Meyer. But then I learned he gives people a hard time of those he really believes in and wants to inspire. So anytime someone's giving you crap, use it as a positive, because if they don't say anything, then it's probably a problem. They probably don't care about you. So yeah, that was freshman year. My wife and I, we actually met in 8th grade, and we got married right before I started freshman year in high school, or college, not high school. I didn't even like girls when I was a freshman, no. She actually went to SUU for 1 year. She was doing her exercise and sports science. She'd been to Snow College, and then she was coming down here to finish up her degree. She was going down to paint her apartment down here, and I was starting camp in about 2 months. So I waited on the side of the freeway and with a little homemade cardboard sign and said, "Cece, I have no family, no job, no money. Will you marry me? Or will you be mine?" And she pulled over, thank goodness. She didn't know it was me. She's like, "Why is my name on that sign? And who's that weird guy?" But yep, got on a knee, asked her to marry me, and it's been history since. So, and then she actually went to the Utah with me. So she ended up graduating from Utah. But we love it down here. She actually said when we got here, she's like, "Where's my time machine? If we could go back, I don't think you guys realize how precious this time is." And people always told us that when I was sitting in your seat. Coaches, old players, teachers, how precious your time is. Use it wisely. These next 4 or 5 years, they will determine huge, I can't even explain how much this is going to determine the rest of your life. And coming to SUU, best decision you ever made. It's one of the best decisions I ever made. I learned more here in my 1.5 years here than I did 5 years at Utah, as far as on the academic side. It's great. I mean, you have real professors, real great men who, and women who have done amazing things that just want to teach and better your life. So sharpen your pencil every day and bring it to class, because you'll need it. Another humbling experience. So, my wife married me. That was really humbling to me, because you always want to marry up. I got down here. Oh yes, so you're probably wondering what this is. Anybody seen one of these before? No? Man, you guys got to get out more. No one else had seen it when I moved down here either. This is called the Madsen Cycle. It's a cargo bike. So my wife actually worked for the owner of this company up in Salt Lake while I was finishing up school. And that was kind of her payment. He let her have a bike really cheap. So to come down here to school, it costs a little bit of money, right? MBA program, yeah, quite a few grand. I had a nice cherry red Dodge Ram. Just for the record, I haven't owned a truck since, dang it. But how did I pay for school? Well, I sold my truck. And my wife and I were not a big believer in debt, only for certain things. And so, it was all paid off. I sold it, paid for a few semesters of school. And I was like, oh, I'll be okay. We're going to live close to the campus. I'm just going to ride this bike around. So, humbling experience. 8 months earlier, I was playing, and I don't mean to brag about myself, that's not the point, but I was playing in the Sugar Bowl, playing in front of, 70, 80,000 fans, another 12 million on TV. I thought I was pretty hot stuff. Get down here to SUU, and I'm riding this bike back and forth to school. Right in where the PE building is, I'm coming down the road there. I remember it like yesterday. The FFA high school clubs had some kind of big reunion here or something. And I'm pulling down by, and these high school kids in their FFA jackets get off the bus, and they start making fun of me. They were taking shots at me. Oh, look at the grandma, yelling out of the bus and just giving me the hardest time. And right there, I felt like I'd hit rock bottom. I really did. I was just like, I have no career. And that was the biggest thing I learned, is outside of the sporting arena, what value was I bringing to other people's lives? So ask yourself that question. What added value can I bring to somebody else's life? I was just a show and a good time. I'd go out there on the field, do my thing, and that's being in sports my whole life. That's That's what I did. And all of a sudden that wasn't there anymore. And out in the real world, no one really cares. I mean, they think it's cool, but it really doesn't matter. And so that was kind of my first come to Jesus moment. What really matters in life? What really matters for me is bringing value to other people and systems, processes, teams, companies. Whoever can bring the most value will usually end up gaining the most resources. So that was a little humbling life experience there. Let's see, what else did I have? I have so many stories. I just want to keep it very serious. And this is a little background kind of life lesson. We can get into the business stuff. This goes till 12:30, right? Okay. Okay, another life-changing experience. Right before I got into SUU, before I could even get into the MBA program, they had a little thing called prerequisites. Oh man, I had already done my degree in Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get into an MBA program. Well, then I took business calculus. And let me tell you, I sat, it was awful. I about walked out. I sat down for 10 minutes, and then the professor, I actually had to take it at St. George because SUU didn't offer a summer. And I just finished at Utah, so I went down there, I was taking the summer class, and sat in business calculus. The first 15 minutes, I was done. I was embarrassed. We hadn't even taken the practice test yet. So I walk out. I remember walking out, getting a drink, just trying to waste time. I'm like, oh man, how am I going to go back in there? How am I going to do this? I go back in, I sit down, and we take our first practice test. So little did I know, it was all the stuff you should know before you take business calculus. I got about an 18%. I think it was like 17 and a half. And you had to grade your own paper at the end of class, and he had everybody call out their score. Okay? Yeah, I said I got a 73. You know, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, oh, 73 here. I'm good, you know. So I go up and speak to him after. And Professor Lunt. Yep, Lynn Lunt. I'm pretty sure his first name, Lynn Lunt. Go and talk to him after, and I say, hey, I can't do this. I'm out. I just said, I ordered the book online. It's not going to be here for another week. I'm going to be so far behind by then. Because, you know, summer course, it's like 3 hours, you know, like every other day. It's just crazy. So he told me, he handed me, so he's holding the teacher's book, and he says, you played college football and you're going to walk out of business calculus? And he really challenged me. You know, it was kind of just one of those gut checks. And he said, you can do this. And so he just handed me his book, and he said, you stay in my class. And he said, you stay in my class, and I'll make sure you pass. And I'm like, okay, well, you're not going to take the final for me unless you are, and then I can pass. So took the book, and this was my schedule. I would go to class at 9. It was like every other day. I'd go to 9, get done about 11, 11:30-ish. And then I'd go to the math lab, and I would study. And I would do all the algebra that I'd missed out on, that I never really took or paid attention to in my undergrad. And then I would go straight from there, and I worked in an at-risk high school. So I'd go sleep overnight in front of the door of the dorm rooms to make sure no one would leave. And you're not really, well, you're supposed to, they say you can sleep, but I don't know how anybody dares sleep with a bunch of juvenile delinquents running around with scissors. You don't want to go to sleep there. But anyways, so that's what I did. And the reason I'm sharing these things with you, if it wasn't for these experiences, there is no way I could succeed in business. There is no way I could succeed in life. And so that's what I want to share with you. All these things you're doing right now, you are just laying the foundation to just tear it up once you graduate. I mean, if you play your cards right and you build your foundation, you guys are seriously going to have the edge on so many people. Entrepreneur class, this is amazing what's been developed since I've been down here. I would have loved something like this. You know, during my this is undergrad, right? Not the MBA. Yeah, I would love something like this. So that was another kind of humbling life experience. Okay, how did I get involved in insurance? And how did I get involved in wanting to create businesses, start businesses? Well, I needed something. I needed something I was passionate about. Insurance, it could have been anything. I mean, I would have sold squeaky toys at a dog store. It really didn't matter for me. I just needed a vehicle to be able to project myself so I could own and start my first business. When I first came down here, in one of my accounting classes, I had a gentleman. His dad ran a sporting goods business. And this kid, I mean, he wasn't the athlete type, which was fine, but he was so smart. He was unbelievably smart. And he got the bright idea, and he said, hey, I know nothing about sporting goods. How about you run all the sales and the inventory side, and my dad's getting ready to retire, and I'll run all the accounting side. And I'm like, sweet. I don't have to think. I just have to talk to people. Perfect. That's right up my alley. So, so that was kind of the plan. And so I was working at the overnight, at-risk high school, kind of just getting through school, trying to do what it took. And then Sherry Hansen, I don't know if anybody's heard of Sherry Hansen in here. Anybody see her ads, advertisements around town? Yeah, right around the corner. So we actually live down the street from Sherry. She's kind of like a second mom to me. I call her my State Farm mom. So she approached me and she said, hey, I think you'd be really good at insurance. And I just kind of was like, looked at her, I was like, oh, I don't know. Insurance? Let me tell you a little story. My wife and I, we didn't even know you had to have car insurance when we got married. We were driving around a car without insurance for like 3 months because her dad gave us the car because we both didn't have any money. Well, he kind of gave it to us. It was her car. I bought a wedding ring. She got the car. It all worked out. But so I told her no. And just politely, I just said, hey, I don't know the first thing about insurance. And, all those broken bones, I'm a risk taker. I really am. And so that was one thing very counterintuitive to me. So I just kept working at that risk high school. And then I got an opportunity. Who knows Two Brothers Communications, Verizon Wireless? Right here in town? All right. So this is a funny little story. Brad Lurcher, so it's all about who you know in life. Another recommendation I'd have for you, write down any contact you meet, put their name, phone number, and email, just start a spreadsheet. Oh, they were in this class, just document it. Every semester, you come across anybody, business owners, guest speakers, and you document all that. Because I guarantee you there'll be a time and a place where you need to go back to them. If I was on better terms with Professor Templin, it's not saying he wouldn't help me. Negotiations. I've had to negotiate a few contracts over the last, 1 or 2 years, and I'm telling you, if I would have kept that operations and not just come out of the street like begging, oh, can you help me with this? Build those relationships, because there's going to be a time you're going to need those people. And you want to bring added value to them as well. It always, never just take. You've got to find a way to give it back to them. Okay, so yeah, Brad Lurcher, he manages the Verizon or the Two Brothers Communications stores for the region. And somehow he knew my wife's sister, whose wife's sister knew my wife, who knew me, and it just all connected, and he needed a new manager. His manager just left. So my management skills up to this point. Let's just say I managed a lawnmower in high school and cut lawns. I was kind of just do it myself. I always had kind of that, I never really had a traditional job. I used to catch snakes because there was a guy in the neighborhood who would pay $1 a snake. So I'd go find the snake nest, throw them on a garbage can, bring them over to him. So just little different weird ways, but it was always dependent on myself. And needed money, so I was like, oh, I'll just go mow lawns. Whose lawn looks crappy? Just went and talked to a few people in the neighborhood, got a few referrals after that, and that's what I did through high school. I just played sports, and then anytime we had a fundraiser, I would just go out and I would just knock it out of the park. Like we had to sell these chocolate bunnies for baseball. I sold 1,327 of them in like a month. Paid for all my baseball the next 2 years, got a new mitt, got a new glove, got a new bag. So from an early age, I kind of was headed down that sales path, that that area. But so, and as far as management, the reason I love sales, it all depends on you. It's all about how hard you work, how good are you with people, how well do you know your product, what to say, when to say it, how to say it. So I love that part about it, because it's like athletes. You're on the field, you get paid if you catch the ball, or whatever. You make your block, you run fast. So direct correlation there. So he put me in charge of this Verizon Wireless store, and by then I was ready to get out of that youth high school. It was crazy. I learned so much there, but wow. Your guys' problems, I mean, we all have problems. Some of what those kids face is unbelievable. So took this job at Verizon Wireless. Started kind of working into that management role. There were already employees, so I didn't have to hire anybody, thank goodness. I did have to hire someone like 2 months in. Oh, it was a nightmare. But kind of got my first taste for managing a team and trying to run a store. And we had to do inventory and all this stuff, and I wasn't the greatest at that. That's taken some work to kind of learn some processes and systems. But one thing I did do really well is, they don't work for Verizon Wireless. What they do is, well, I mean, they contract with Verizon Wireless to sell their phones. So they're a retailer. And they sell their own phone insurance. And this is how I got onto insurance. And their own phone insurance is like half the price. I think it was like a $50, $50, $60, depending on the phone. It's half of what Verizon Wireless sells, and they cover one or two more things. Before I started working there, no one really knew, like no one really sold it. They're just like, oh, they just get the Verizon Wireless insurance. And they had this competition. Who could sell the most insurance in the region, got an Android smartphone. This is right when smartphones came out. So everybody had the flip phones before that. The little slide keyboards, they were really cool right when this happened. So, and that's crazy, it was only like 5 years ago. So the Android phone, it was about $600. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not even going to use it. So, but I thought, well, I love the competition, so I'm going to win the dang thing, you know. So what happened is we got into bundling, and what we would do at the sales process, we really just had to refine how were people buying these products. And what we started doing, instead of telling them, hey, it's $50 for the phone, and then it's $50 for the insurance, and then it's $15 for 2 accessories. We can get your screen protector in your, in your case. We just took the reverse effect and said, hey, we have 3 packages for you. This first package, you're going to be able to get your insurance covered, and we just go over all the benefits that they'd be crazy not to do it. And so we'd start high and then work our way back down. Just that little tiny tweak in what we were doing changed a ton. Like in 4 months, we were one of the top stores in the region. And the reason I'm sharing this is it's those little things that you got to find that make the biggest difference. It's the little niches, the little processes, the little systems. That's what will set you apart. And here's the thing, it's kind of tough to get people to share those things with you. And so I do want to share a little bit the importance of a mentor. Find someone who's been there before. Wash their car, mow their lawn, do anything to show them that you're appreciative and that you care about their success more than your own. You got to find that 1 or 2 people, and you don't need a ton of them. Really, I would say 1 or 2 select people in your life that'll be able to guide you and help you. They're going to save you a world of pain, a world of kicking against the bricks. Okay, so what else do you guys want to hear about? Any questions so far? Let's do a few questions. I can only talk. I mean, I can talk forever, but Anybody have any questions? So, so that's how I got insurance. Go ahead.
I'd like to know, just with you starting the franchise through State Farm, did you choose the franchise because it was like limited risk, like the last person started the franchise because a business and a formula that you established, or what was your thought process?
I wish I was ahead of the game that far, thinking ahead that far. What it was to me, I had 2 kids. I was finishing up my MBA. And then how did I get back with Sherry? So I figured out insurance was the moneymaker. We made like double commission at Two Brothers for selling the insurance. And then I was like, well, maybe Sherry's onto something. So I went and spoke with her, again, and she's like, yeah, come try it out. So I did it for 9 months. What it was for me, I needed something. The sporting good, once I compared the insurance, running an insurance office versus a sporting goods store, the amount of headache that the sporting goods store would generate year after year versus the amount of headache once you get an insurance office set up, it was night and day difference. And so that's what kind of led me. I was looking to the quickest way to get my own will. Does that make sense? So you don't have to reinvent the wheel early on. If you're bright enough and you're smart enough and you're going to come up with an app and you're going to come up with something to change the world, by all means, go do it. For guys like me, I'm a hustler. I'm going to be out on the street hustling, trying to figure it out. Do I have smarts? Well, I'm not going to tell you what I got on the GMAT or the SAT, but I did have almost a 4.0 in grades, but I couldn't take tests worth anything. If it was a class that was all work-based, brilliant. I would get an A every time. If it was heavy test-based, it was horrible. I was just horrible at it. But I've gotten better, but it's just one of those things. So play to your strengths. And my thought was on the, as far as getting into insurance, it played perfectly to my strengths. I knew how to sell. I knew how to hustle. I had a little bit of team experience. And that's why my quote is, if it can't be done by the team, it won't get done. So I'm at the phase now in business where I can't be the guy on the floor anymore. I don't want to be. I know how to do it. So now it's just documenting my system, my process, the little trade secrets I've learned, and pass those on to other people and get them set up. And that's the glory of it, because I'm bringing value to them. And at first I felt kind of bad about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I used to work 80 hours a week, getting all this stuff done, making sure it was successful. And now I work 20 hours a week and I'm making more and I have more free time to choose what I want to do. You almost feel guilty. Well, at least I do, because I never want someone to outwork me. But then I learned, hey, you know what? I am providing for these families. One of our team members, he's having a baby today. He's going to have the next week or two off. I got another office manager. He just purchased a house. Just barely. Got a nice little, house for him and his wife, and then also a mother-in-law rental on the bottom. So, it's one of those things. At first I was feeling guilty, but then it's like, you know what? If I can position myself and bring value to others, they'll go to bat for you. And they'll do all your dirty work for you because they need to start as well. And yeah, we do have a little turnover. About every year or two I have to find a new person, which is very low, I think, in my office versus some other insurance industries I know of. So, yeah, hopefully that answered that. Anyways, what other questions? Let's just do questions. That's funner. Instead of me just...
you know Roger.
Who now? Roger Reed? Is he State Farm? Yeah, I recognize the name. I don't know him personally, but yeah. So who here is interested in the insurance industry? One or two? What kind of insurance? What are you thinking?
Right now I work for Allstate.
Okay. Hey, you know what? Nothing wrong with a little professional courtesy and competition. We thrive off of it. What about yourself? American National. Hey, they were big. They're big down here. Yep. I spoke to, who's the contact over there? Do you know a Colt?
Yes.
Yeah. I only remember him because we have the same name, but big, tall guy, yeah. So, what questions do you guys have about it?
Did you start?
Oh.
Okay. Did you start your own, or did you buy your State Farm agency?
That was another thing to answer kind of his question as well. By the time I finished college, I had a total of, how much do we have, CC? 3,000? 6,000? Right around I want to say we had 3,000 in a bank account we could access and another 3,000 that was harder to get to. That's all I had. I had that and a degree. An MBA, my heart, my passion, that's all I had. And the network I'd established. So that is one way to go about doing it. That is. We started that agency. I still had $10,000 in a student loan. And it was still lower interest than I could have went and got like a different type of loan. So I used that money to show State Farm I had some assets to throw out. Oh my God, I don't even know how I got into this gig. So to get into the insurance industry, you have to jump through some hoops. Some of these, captive markets. Independent, a little, I didn't research that as much, but talked to a few independents. It seems still like a different gig. They would subsidize, like the Levitt Group and a few other different independent agencies. They would subsidize some of your income, but eventually you'd either have to pay it back in commissions or, work it out that way. The captive market's set up a little bit different than that. They pretty much say they have this thing called a permanent contract. So they try you out for a few years. If they don't like you, you don't sign. Whatever money you invested, you lose. But you can either inherit a book. So with State Farm, they own all their customers. So you can either inherit a small portion to get you going or start scratch. When I started, the agent before me, there was actually 2 agents who hadn't made it. So one started it. He grew it to about 300 auto, which is, heck, at our prime, we were doing about 200 auto policies a month, so if that makes sense. The next agent, well, no, not 200 auto, over 200 total apps, about 150 auto. But the other agent was there, he was there for about a year, and he added about another 200 to it. So when I took over, State Farm did kind of count it as scratch, but they did give me about 500 autos to start. And in my mind, it was a dream come true. I wanted to start a business. It was kind of one of those, it wasn't way out in the abyss because State Farm does control some of the compliance, some of the insurance is highly regulated. So you do have to play like in their world. But then also on the other side, you're a 1099, you're a contractor, you're 100% commission. And those are just barriers to entry. Some people hate the fact of being 100% commission. Yeah, how did I didn't really buy a book. I inherited some, and then I just hit the ground running and just sold like crazy. Our first year, it was rough. Ton of learning experiences, made a ton of mistakes, got in a few scary situations, came out okay, still alive. We made it through our first year, and then State Farm actually, at the end of my second year, they offered me a permanent contract. So I actually wanted to delay it another 2 years because you can make more on the temporary, but took the permanent contract, and then once you sign the permanent contract, it's pretty much State Farm saying, hey, here's your market area. As long as you stay compliant, as long as you pay your bills, and keep all your insurances active, and then make sure your people are all compliant and licensed, they pretty much, they're there for support. So.
Why did you choose State Farm specifically over the other agencies?
You know what? It's because Sherry Hansen. I started working for Sherry Hansen, and is it kind of one of those things, done is better than perfect? It was one of those things I could have shopped around, and I met with enough agents, I met with enough captive, non-captive debate, but for my specific situation, I knew I had a little over a year of State Farm's experience to where I knew their system. And then I actually transferred and worked for another agent for about another 8 months in Salt Lake. And he was one of the top agents in the state at the time. And so I just went up to him and said, hey, I want to be great at this, teach me, And then you can keep all the policies I sign up and everything like that. So, yeah. Does that answer your question a little bit? Okay.
When you first started, what were, not giving away any of your secrets or anything like that?
Do I know?
When you first started your franchise, without giving away any of your secrets, what were some of the things you did to hit the ground running, to bring in those first initial customers? What was that process?
Yep. So price.
Price?
So the insurance company doesn't want you really selling on price because you got to kind of find out what your market is wanting. We live in Utah, very low income state. What do people love in Utah County? Free stuff. Free. If you say it's free, you're going to get people at your marketing event. And so, great question. And really, not really, secrets. I would say biggest trade secret is find a way to save them money. Still give them quality. Get them in on price, sell them on value. So that was kind of our approach. And they don't like that because they're like, well, no, they should be shopping for what's right for their needs. Yeah, there's a balance. But if you can turn around and tell someone you're going to save them $300, $400 a year and they're on a fixed income, man, now you have something to build on. Very rarely do people jump insurance companies and pay more unless it's relationship and money's not an issue. But then you're narrowing your market to about 30% of the people. So, yeah. And we're almost out of time here. Yes?
What's some of your future plans? Are you going to stick with State Farm, or do you plan on trying to
Yes. You know what? After going through what I went through to get the agency built up, it's a great, and I forget this is being recorded. If my sales leader's listening, I'll have to do some explaining after, but I'll tell you. No. So, in businesses, and I've just recently kind of learned some of these concepts, but I would say, has anybody heard of a cash cow versus a racehorse? Everybody kind of heard about a dog? So you shoot wounded dogs, you ride racehorses, you cash cows, you know? And the concept behind that is, at one time, State Farm was my racehorse because I needed something, I needed an opportunity. And it was set with my skill sets and abilities to be successful. So I ran with it. I rode that racehorse as fast as I could. Well, there's a little bit of an S-curve. When you don't have any customers, you're going to grow like crazy. But then all of a sudden you get so many customers, now you got to spend time servicing those customers and helping them out. So now your productivity is going to go down a little bit, but you know, it's just how it is. And so I've kind of gotten to the point where it's done being a racehorse. Now, what do you usually do? Well, you're either going to sell it and just sell the company and move on, take your money. Well, I don't own the policies with State Farm, so that makes it a little difficult. So the next best option would probably be cash cow it. And what that means is you keep it healthy, you keep it strong, and you keep it focused and doing good things. One thing that's nice about insurance, once you go through the process and learn how to do it, now you can teach other people how to do it. And your quality is going to go down a little bit because they don't own the company, but you can cash cow it. So what I'll probably do is, it's my cash cow. That covers all my bases, and now I can go play and make any kind of creation I want, you know, after that point. So,
what was your growth like from starting until now, and what do you attribute it to?
Tribute to sweat, blood, and tears. A lot of mistakes. Growth. Our first year, we grow a little, almost a million point. Our second year was phenomenal because now all of a sudden we had all the referrals coming in. End of the second year, we were just under 2 million. End of the third year, just under 2.5 million. And this year, we're going to finish out just under 3. And I haven't sold a policy in a month about a year and 2-3 months. I haven't really sat in the chair selling policies. But I have I'll handle the special ones. I'll handle, special contacts and stuff like that. But now I got pretty much a team systems process. Now it's all about team management and recruiting talent.
So what was the difference between you and the guys before you that you said they had like 200 and 250?
I mastered my craft under another agent. People that think they're just going to walk out and do it, I had a year and a half experience and I still got slaughtered on stuff. And I didn't want to embarrass my wife. I wanted her to share a few things about what it's like being married to me and the crazy life we live. But
Yeah, I can't say it here.
she can't see. You got to give the edited version. No.
No, you just have to be just as creative, just as open-minded. Yeah, the devil's advocate, I guess.
And it's all about support system. It really is. And she stopped me from doing some crazy things. She stops me every day. I'm going to get through this real quick. I got about a minute. Some lessons learned since graduating. Get your own will. We covered that. You don't have to invent the wheel early in your career. If you're smart enough, great. If not, get something, run with it, get a foundation. Win 80% of the time. That's very counterproductive from an athlete. You want to win 100% of the time. If you're not losing 20%, you're not trying hard enough. Remember that. If you're not in awkward situations 20% of the time and you're not getting beat down by life 20% of the time, you're not doing the right thing. You want to have those failures because that's where you're going to learn the most. Fabulous 5. Be very careful who you surround yourself with. If there's cancers, cut it out. You'll become the 5 people you hang around. And it doesn't mean you're going to say the same things. What it means is their ability and their potential is going to directly reflect your ability and your potential. Keep to the code. Have set values. If I would have had a better value structure when I first opened my agency, I would have avoided 9 out of the 10 major issues I had my first year. If I would have had a better value system and conveyed that to my team. I didn't convey that to my team very well. They will run People will run you over and run you down unless you make a stand. You tell them what you believe, what you believe in, what your goal is, and what your purpose is. If you don't do it, they're going to do it for you, and you'll be subject to their result. Master your craft. That's another thing. Find the thing you're way good at and you have the most passion for that you could do day in and day out. Do that, because you're going to get the most income and the most satisfaction in life from that. Don't quit, only replace. Never quit something, just replace it with something else. You go out and try to learn to ice skate. Okay, well, you suck, you hate it. Don't quit and just stop doing something. You got to never quit something till you have something to replace it. That's kind of been my idea. Freedom through systems and processes. We talked about that a little bit. That'll set you free. Getting other people to be able to do your work and still give them value. And then be a solver. The better you become at identifying and creating solutions for people's problems, the more successful you'll become. Ring true from SUU, 50-50 relationships. If he ever teaches an entrepreneur or negotiations class, get in it. It's unbelievable what this man's negotiated before and some of the stories he has. I like to hang on the 40-20. I'm in sales, or the 40-60 rule. I like to only take 40% and let the other person have 60 because they're going to give me referrals for it. So I never try to take the whole pie. That's basically a whole pie. You're sitting down to dinner. I like to cut. I let the other people choose. This is the best sales tactic I ever learned. So I let the other people cut what they want, and then I cut what, give them the offer, and then I let them choose. Because if you're getting them 60%, they'll take it. Theory of constraints, continual improvements. Who's here read The Goal? All right, look that up. It's awesome. The Goal by, yes, Goldratt. Read that. That'll tell you all about that. That's one of the best things I've ever learned from SUU. I use it all the time. That's how I got my system and process. That's how I'm able to bring in almost $3 million in sales a year and not sell a policy. Read that book. It'll tell you everything you need to know on there. Heteroskedasticity, that'll get you in the door. Who's had economics? I learned this from Professor Barry. I don't know if he teaches undergrad or just graduate, Heteroskedasticity, that got me in my chair with State Farm. I said that in the interview. It's something with regression models and like how to predict sales versus activity. He said, you don't even have to know what it means. He said, you use that word in an interview and you'll get the job. And so it was awesome. It was great. The vice president of State Farm was in the room, and I said it, and he asked questions on it, and then I tried not to sound stupid, and it was great. And I actually just said, my economics teacher pretty much told me during my MBA, he said, if you use that word, you'll get the job. That's what I told them flat out. And they were dying. They were loving it. And I said, that's my 30 grand right there in that one word, so I give him a hard time. Anyways, Elmer Wheeler, Sell the Sizzle. Look that up for your 90-second pitch you got to do. We don't have time to watch this stuff. What time? We're done, right? Oh, man, I'm so sorry. I have so much. You get me talking. That's why I brought my wife. She's supposed to throw the baby in the air when I'm, to move on to the next topic. So, yeah, don't eat the chili game. Hey, we'll play this game at lunch. If you guys want to come to lunch, come. We'll discuss this. It'll be really fun. If you want to learn a great thing, it'll change your life. Okay, that's pretty much all I got. Challenge, read The Goal, give a sincere compliment each week. Thank you again. Let's stay connected. There's my information.